We are going to talk today. I'm going to apologize first to the people that made the bulletin for this week because it says Financial Peace University on it. That is what it says. So it'll look the exact same next week, except for maybe some change on the inside, because we need to pause for a moment. And it was already printed. This didn't come about until yesterday, and I just knew that we had to stop. We are a church that, if someone were to ask you what's your church about, I hope that by now we've learned, that we're a church that's going to learn it, live it, love others with it. Let's say it together. Learn it, live it, love others with it. And so it takes time, I understand that, but it's been 3 months since we really took that kind of mantra on, and hopefully that it becomes our DNA. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about loving others with it. And I want to share with you, starting with a story that's actually very sad, but yesterday I stood on this very stage, and as I stood on the stage, in front of me was a coffin. And with the coffin open, I've never done a funeral to where the person's body is in front of me when I'm actually, officiating the funeral. And I even asked the guy from the funeral home, I said, this is kind of odd. Normally it's behind me. He said, no, there's other churches that's how they do the funeral, with the body in front of you. And so as I was up here standing here, I looked out and I could not believe the number of young people that were sitting where you're sitting now. And the reason there were so many young people that were sitting there is because the young man whose head was literally right here was 22 years of age. And the family gets up and they're sharing things about him, and they're talking, the things from him as a child, jumping on a trampoline and how high he could jump, and maybe doing some things that were illegal, like riding in the back of a pickup truck when he wasn't supposed to, and having fun, but always being the kid that was joking around, and he could always find a joke. As he grew into his teen years, he would watch The Office on Netflix over and over and over again. He would still laugh at the same jokes. And I have a kid like that I think we've watched The Office 733 times so far. But it's like all the words and everything from it. But those are some of the things that he just enjoyed. He could find fun in a situation. He could help people to laugh when other people couldn't. But the amazing thing is that he was one of 6 siblings. And as I found through this time is that the other 5, he was the one that he was able, that they all went to. That they all described him as their best friend. He was the go-to guy. He was the peacemaker. And as we talked more and they shared more about his life, these are all the things that you'd love to have shared about you. I want to know that I reach people. I want to know that I love people. I want to know that I cared for people. I wanted to know that I could laugh at times. I wanted to know that I could make others laugh. And so earlier in the week, I had to do the funeral as well. And it's a relative of people within our church family, but he was also my friend. And he was, 79 years old. And so the mindset is that's different, right? Because, he lived 79 years. And this young man only lived 22. And yet every funeral is the same because we lose a loved one. And every funeral is different because that loved one is someone that's different. And so the words that were shared about both of these people were loving words, and they were kind words, and they were at times funny, and at times you didn't know what was coming next. But it's amazing to me how at the age of 79, we still lose someone, and yet the way that we lost him, because it was from a 20-year battle with cancer, and I know that he was at peace. I know for sure that he was at peace. I had the conversations with him. I was blessed to have those conversations. As we sat there, it wasn't Dave sitting across the table from John as pastor. It was Dave sitting with his friend John, and John sitting with his friend Dave. And in those moments, we got to talk about the things that matter. We got to talk about the temporary, but we also got to talk about the eternal. And it was while we ate cheeseburgers. It was while we fed chips to his chihuahuas. And I'll tell you that I learned more in those moments because he was willing to share with me. He was willing to share his life. He was willing to share when he first met his wife. He was willing to share how much he loves his daughters. He was willing to share the knowledge he had about birds and about dogs and about all of those things. And he took the time to do so. But once again, it wasn't Dave and Pastor John or Dave and his preacher, and it wasn't the pastor and his, and I don't even know how you look at it, in his congregation, because he didn't come to church here. It was two people sitting down, loving one another enough that every time those conversations went to God. They went to the eternal, and we ended up praying every time together. And what a blessing that is. But here's this 22-year-old who I'd never met. And I didn't know him. And when I walked out yesterday, I've done a lot of funerals. And this one was the most difficult funeral I have ever had to do. And the reason why is because when I sat here, there were so many young people that were looking back, and all I could look at and think was, I don't really know that. I don't know where they're going to spend eternity. I don't know if they have any idea who Jesus is. And I may never see them again. And yet, they walk in our communities. And they go to our schools. And they have hearts. And they have thoughts. And they have dreams. And they have lives. But if we're not reaching them, who's going to? Who's going to take the time to do so? See, learning is great. Living it is wonderful because people need to see it. But we've got to take that step of loving others with it. This young man was fine until he was 18 years old. And then something happened where he made one choice. Let me say that again. Something happened where he made one choice. And that choice led to an addiction. And that addiction led to rehab. 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 And in between it, he wanted to care for people and care for his family. But somehow, some way, it got into his mind that the only way to do so was to get away. And so he got away just a little ways into Columbus. And it finally seemed like he was getting things back on track and good to go. And a judge of all people stepped in and said, no, you can do it in Columbus and you can do it here in Akron. You can do it in Summit County. And so he had to come back home. But when he did, he fell right back into all the same habits. He fell back into all the same circles. He fell back into all the same places to go because it's what he knew. Because that's what addiction does. It sends us back again and again and again. And so this young man realized that the only way to truly get out is to get away as far as I can go. And he went all the way to Colorado. And if you looked at the picture boards and the messages that it said, his words said this: I am toxic to the ones I love, and I needed to get away. And yet if you asked his entire family that sat here, his 5 brothers and sister, and his mom and dad, they would do whatever they could to make him realize that he wasn't toxic. And that they would help him in any way they could. See, life for all the people that are sitting out here, for all these young people, it goes back to normal today. This family is answering questions they never thought they would have to answer. And so that's why I take it back to us. We need to get to the point of loving others with it. And we all know, we understand that we just had a rough time and a rough stretch that we went through. And it was difficult as a church. And guess what? Get in line, because it's difficult for every church. I learned in the this conference I was at recently, no denomination is growing. None. They're all struggling. Churches everywhere, they're blowing up left and right. Why? Because when the devil persecuted the church, it grew because people came together. Now the devil comes into the church and tears us apart from the inside out. The age group from 15 to 29, which is what this young man was. The age group from 15 to 29, which is what our den is. The age group of 15 to 29, which is what all these kids, Lord willing, are going to end up coming into. Church attendance is down over 10%. Over 10% in the last 7 years. Over 10% in the last 7 years. From age 15 to 29, church attendance is down almost 50%. Why? Because the church is so stuck on these are the rules and these are regulations and all the things that we have to do, we have to follow, that they're missing the fact that there's a person behind those eyes that has a heart beating in their chest. And even if it's an addiction, that is someone to God who should be someone to us. 2.1 million Americans suffer with addiction, some kind of addiction, right now as we sit here. There's people here that deal with it. And so what are we doing to reach them? Because I've done my share of heroin overdose funerals. I was trying to think of how many yesterday, and I kept, oh, that one, and that one, and that one, and that one. And the crazy thing happens, we always keep score. I'm like, am I getting double digits? I just stopped counting because I didn't want to get to that number. I don't know why, it's just, I didn't want to get there. And here's the thing about every single one of those heroin overdoses for funerals that I did. Every one of them in that 15 to 29-year-old age group. Every one of them. They're not hearing about God. They're not having a chance to. They're walking in our communities. They're not walking in the churches. They need a place to fit in, so they fit in with the friends that have the needles and have the drugs, because we're not helping them fit in here. And we're not helping them fit in here because we're not even inviting them. Our youth group went to 8 kids the first time that we came back on Wednesday night. Last week there were 17 kids in there. Do they matter? You better believe they matter. We better start acting like it. Because it's you and it's me that need to start those conversations now. I need to start reaching these kids now. Because if we don't, they're going to get to 18 and 19 and 20 and 21, and they're going to make whatever decisions that they have been brought up with and whatever it is that they see before them. And when they have someone to go to turn to, if they have no one outside their family, they leave their family. Because they believe they're toxic to the ones that love them the most. Who do they turn to? Many times they turn to that addiction. And there's a loss on the other end of where the entire family is just asking, what's going on? What's happening? What are we doing? Well, what are we doing? I mean, what are you doing? What am I doing? A young man walked into church today with the grandson of family that we know here. He has some cool shoes on. We stopped and said, hey, cool shoes, what do they need? Because every kid now, you can't just get a shoe, right? So you got to have the name of it. Those are the LeBron 26ers, and those are the Jordan whatever, and those are whatever it might be. And she said, what's the name of that shoe? He looked at me like I had 4 heads. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, what's the name of your shoe? He's like, tennis. Basketball, I mean, didn't have a name. So you know what we did? We named it. We're going to call those cool wave runners. I'm going to tell his grandfather later, listen, you ask your son's friend about those cool wave runners and tell him to bring in those cool wave runners again next week, and we're going to notice it. We got to have those conversations. We got to talk about the things that matter. We got to, when we see things on Facebook with the kids, we got to be willing to ask about it. We can't go, oh, I can't be their friend because I'm this age and they're only a teenager. Listen, you're friends with them, you're friends with their family, you make all of it known. 2 young teenagers came up to me today who I love them to pieces, and I hadn't seen them for a while. And they came to me to give me hugs. And I had a conversation with a daughter because that daughter made my daughter feel welcome at an away game somewhere. She took the time to say hello. When my daughter walked in, she's like, oh my goodness, guess who said hello to me? We think that that's not a big deal. It's a big deal. But when did it stop that we do that? We have kids walking in these hallways. We have kids walking in our communities. We can't even make eye contact or smile. Partly it's because we're afraid we're going to get jumped, right? We're afraid we're going to get robbed. We're afraid that they're, hooligans and thugs and all those other kind of things. They're people just like you and I are. And we've got to learn to dive in, not just to that age group, but to anyone that needs to hear about God's Word. They're your kids. They're my kids. They're your grandkids. I don't have grandkids yet. I pray that I will one day. But until then, I've got 4 that I have to continue to reach. 4 that I want you to continue to reach. 4 that I want you to know their names. 4 that I want you to make fun of their hair. 4 that I want you to be able to joke with. 4 that I want you to be able to ask questions. Hey man, how was school this week? You got a B on that science test. How'd you do this week? Oh, way better. I got a D+. You'll never be valedictorian. Right? Maybe they were never meant to be, and that's okay. We have got literally to start loving others with it. It starts with our kids, but here's the next thing it starts with. We have people in our lives every day that we care about. We accuse to sit here on Sundays, and they aren't learning it. They aren't living it. And they aren't loving others with it. So until we take this seriously, the devil's going to continue to win. My heart broke for how many young people sat here looking back to me. And my heart broke because I saw dads sitting with their kids. And when the addiction stuff came up and they're making choices, they're looking back and forth. And the mom's looking down and they're like, oh, God, just, God, if you could give me anything, please let my kid never try heroin. That's some of the prayers for parents today. As opposed to, because this is how it used to be, God, if you could give me anything, please, Lord, let me show them and share with them who you are. And let me help them down that path. That's a huge difference. But our world has us in so much fear, and we're so afraid of walking, and we're so afraid of, oh my goodness, and what if I get attacked? And guess what? That's fine. You know why? Because each week you learn it. And you get an opportunity to live it. But we got to start loving others with it. How do we do that? The first thing is we have to recognize that it's there. The second thing is we've got to follow the example of Jesus and the wisdom that God's Word gives us. Proverbs chapter 7 is where we're going to be as we start today. And we'll start down this path together. This verse starts off as a little thing on the top of mine that says, warning against the adulteress. And of course, when we read this about the adulteress, a lot of people will stop because they're like, well, adultery is not something I struggle with. That is a man-made title, warning against the adulteress. I would change that to say warning against the seductress. Because it's whatever it is that pulls us away, that seduces us in such a way that it pulls us away from the things that are important. Verse 1, it says, my son, keep my words and store up my commands within you. So, you can't keep the words unless you know the words. And so, anytime we keep something, we usually have a place that we put it. If you are someone that's, you're a collector, you keep it behind a glass thing and you display it. If you have your tools, you tend to keep your tools in your tool chest, unless you're like me and they're all over the house. You keep your car in your garage. You keep your nice car, you put the car cover over it and keep it in a special place. You know the things that are important to you, so you keep them, and you know where they are. He says, keep my words and store up my commands within you. And they stay within us because, and here's the difference, for those things that we collect, they stay behind the glass, right? You can point at them, you can look at them, and you might even be able to pull them out for a little bit and touch them. but for the most part, they stay behind them. And so with God's words, many times that's what we do with them. We keep behind the glass. And we, every once in a while we dust them off. And every once in a while we look at it. But they stay there. And so there's a process where it starts where it says, store up these commands within you. Keep my commands, and here's the promise, and you will live. Guard my teachings as the apple of your eye. And now think about this for a second as far as guarding. When we guard something, what do you guard it with? You guard it with every fiber of your being. If you're an athlete and you're told to guard someone, I'm going to stay between you and the basket. If it's basketball, no matter what I'm going to do, I'm going to stay there. If you're the goalie in soccer, you're doing whatever you can to guard that huge net. If you're a defender in football, you're guarding the end zone. If you're in basketball, you're protecting the rim. If it's your garden, you put little fencing around it to guard against all the animals. Your house, you lock the doors at night. Your car, you lock it. You guard it with whatever means you can to protect it. Do we guard God's Word the same way? Because where's God's Word if we're reading it? It's stored within. Do we protect it to the point to where we can also defend it? Because see, if someone broke into your house, there's many things you would do to protect it. If someone tried to come in and score on you in basketball, you would do whatever you can to protect it, even the foul. If someone was going to score in your end zone, you would pull them down from behind, even if you got a penalty. If you were guarding that goal and you knew that there was something you couldn't do, but it was going to save it, even if they got a penalty kick, you would do whatever you could in your power to guard that. When will we take that same seriousness with God's Word? Will we guard it with our life? Because they just said that with these words we will live. Bind them on your fingers, write them on the tablet of your heart. I shared this at another time. This is where the tying the string around your finger and as a reminder. So you keep that reminder. It's a way that you can remember. So we keep this bound here, and then, what do I have? What is it I need to remember? And they would keep that string around there to remember, listen, these are God's words, and this is what they mean, and I'm going to share those with others. Bind them on your fingers, write them on the tablet of your heart. And then a change takes place. And it's at this point that the man who's sharing the wisdom, it isn't just enough to bring it in. It's time now to love others with it, to learn it, to live it, to love others with it. And a conversation takes place. It says this, say to wisdom, you are my sister, and call understanding your kinsman. So even if you're an only child, say to wisdom, this is my sister. God has never left you alone as a child. You've never been an only child when you have God in your life. These kids have never been an only child. When we take it seriously, we get to know them and to meet them and to greet them and to know their names. But say, each one of us, say to wisdom, you are my sister, and call understanding your kinsman. You're my sister, you're my brother. I need wisdom, I need understanding. And I need to treat you as though you live with me every single day. Now, I'm going to stop here for a second. How many people have multiple kids? And how many of you are thinking right now, going, man, the way my kids talk to each other, the things they say, man, the brother and sister relationship, we get all of that. That happens. But there's going to be times when you say to wisdom, hey, is this the right thing to do? And wisdom's going to say, you dummy. That's not the right thing, and you know better. And you're like, oh, okay. Or you're going to go and do it. And then when you go and do it, you realize it was a mistake. You come back and understanding's like, I told you. She told you. You should have listened to your sister. And we don't. And as a parent, you pray that they don't fall too far away, that it actually costs them dearly in some way, shape, or form. Whatever it might be. And so there's a conversation that needs to take place, even with our younger people. You need to say, man, okay, I know everyone else is doing it. I know everyone else is giving in physically. I know everyone has to have a date. I know everyone stays for the after party. I know everyone's having the first drink. They're hitting the bong the first time. I know everyone's going to try smoking. I know everyone's going to vape. I know everyone's mixing the marijuana now in with the vape. So when they do it with the bong, it makes it even more intense. I know that I could probably get away with the heroin the first time. I'm pretty sure I could. I know that. See, these are the things that are going on in these young people's minds. These are the things that they are presented with. I know it's just a web page. I know it's just one bet. I know it's not that big of a deal. I know that, Mom and Dad probably won't find out. I'm pretty sure that I can get away with it. I've covered it up from this long. Then as we get older, I know it's just a web page. I know she's just talking to me and it's not that big of a deal. It's just a little bit flirtatious. I know that. Whatever it might be, what is it that pulls us in, that pulls us away, not from our spouse, not from our kids, not from our loved ones, that pulls us away from God, that we can't even recognize those loved ones? That's a big change. To where we stop and go, man, I hope my wife doesn't find out. Man, I hope my kids don't find out. To, man, I hope God doesn't call me on this one. But we don't think that way. Why? Because our world doesn't think that way. We need to be above that. If we're going to learn to live it, love us with it, it is the good news and it is the gospel. And this was written hundreds of thousands of years before Jesus ever walked on this planet. The words continue. It says, say wisdom, you are my sister, and call understanding your kinsman. They will keep you from the adulteress, from the wayward wife, with their seductive words. Now once again, this is talking about that adultery kind of thing. But notice the seductress as well. What is it that seduces you, that keeps you away from your walk with God? Teenagers, what is it that pulls you away to where you can't recognize God when you're in school? Maybe it's the words that you say. Maybe it's the teachers just like evolution, evolution, evolution. Maybe it's because everyone else has to be cool or everyone else has to put someone down. Young couples, what is it that pulls you away? Is it the shiny, new whatever? Is it the, oh my goodness, I've always wanted to have one? Is it the, oh, we've got credit cards so we can max them out? What is it that pulls you away from God's plan for you in your walk? Because as you'll learn over the next few weeks, it's not what you have, it's what you do with what you have. And because of our society where you're nothing more than a number, you get so stuck up in it, and then when you want to go and help, and you're like, oh, I'd love to give that $5 to $10 for those kids for the trunk or treat. I don't have $5 or $10. How do I not have $5 or $10? I make this much a year, and I don't even have that to give. Next year, the year after. Husbands and wives right now, a little bit older, your kids are a little older. What is it that is seducing you, that is pulling you away from the very things God is wanting you to do? And the elderly. Who is it that's pulling you away? What is it that's pulling you away from you, not just acting, but helping to lead, to mentor some of these young people, to mentor some of these women, men, to mentor some of these young guys, to put your arms around them. Many years ago, I was in a golf league. I've shared this story with some of you guys. And it was a church golf league. And this was back when I used to hit the golf ball, like the actual golf ball. I hit it a long way. And I would get up and I would hit a golf ball. And one of the guys, his name's Doug McClure, he's 84 years old. He would say, man, when you hit a golf ball, ominous. And I was like, thanks, man. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to look up what that means. But what would happen is, I would get a bad shot, and I would slam my club down, and I would cuss. And he would look at me, and just kind of nod his head. And I'm like, oh, he probably heard that. And so those guys, and those guys, and those guys, and they're all in the league. So I got to the point where I'd slam my club down after a bad shot, and I'd only think it. It was a big step, right? Then I got to the point where I'd just take my club like this, and I'd walk over and I'd put it in my bag, and I'd stand like this, and I'd fume, stand there, and all of a sudden one day I realized, oh, I didn't even cuss in the brain. Holy bleep! I got to the point over that whole year, and we're in the finals, and it's the biggest thing, and I'm playing with Doug. And I hit a shot that, like, You just wish every once in a while you see the pros hit it like on TV, go, oh, I can do that. It was bad. Like here's the fairway, and then here's a cornfield, and then there's like something else over the cornfield. It went over to something else. It was over the cornfield. Probably to someone's swimming pool. I have no clue. It was bad. And I just walked over and put my club away. I'm like, all right, Doug, your shot. He looked at me and he was like, you've really grown. And I was like, what? He goes, at the beginning of the year, he went through the progressions with me. And then he said something that blew my mind. He was like, yeah, when I was your age, I cussed like a sailor. I looked at him and I go, what? He goes, you're great. He goes, you use the new words. He goes, I used to take the Lord's name in vain, left and right, and left and right. He goes, and then just finally one day I just decided, is that what I want people to see? Is that what I want people to be able to hear? Am I really representing God the way I should represent Him? And just put it away. The rest of the time I just walked around because I'm looking at this godly man. And I'm like, there's no way that you ever cussed in your entire life. See, I had seen a man who over his however many years had learned. And it was a guy that I got to play alongside of that was watching me. And when the time came, those are the words that he shared with me. It's almost the only thing that he shared with me other than honest through the whole year. He would just laugh and smile and it was fine. But he took that time and shared that wisdom with me. And so now, when I'm on a golf course and I hit a bad shot, which are a lot more prevalent now because I just don't play, I don't even worry about it. I don't even keep score anymore. I just go up, hit it, and have fun. I don't cuss, and I don't worry about it. But his words, every time I hit a bad shot, are what come to me. You've come a long way. Because I remember when I was in that age, and I was that. See, listen, these are the things that we need to pass on. These are the things that God has put in our heart. This is the change that an 84-year-old man made through the years. And I only saw the changed product. But the changed product was willing to give it to God. The changed product was willing to reach out to others. The changed product was willing to learn it, to live it, and to love others with it. And he talked to wisdom. And he dove into understanding. And he got to that point to where he realized that those things will keep him away from the things that are keeping him from God. I want you to close your eyes. I just want you to sit. I want you to listen to this. I just want you to listen. I want you to take this in. You're the person. It says, at the window of my house. So you're the person at the house. You're going to become the person that is writing this. I just want you to listen and you position yourself. At the window of my house, I looked out through the lattice. I saw among the simple. I noticed among the young men a youth who lacked judgment. He was going down the street near her corner, walking along in the direction of her house. At twilight, as the day was fading, as the dark of night set in, then out came a woman to meet him, dressed like a prostitute and with crafty intent. She is loud and defiant. Her feet never stay at home. Now in the street, now in the squares, at every corner she lurks. You're going to hit the pause button. Look at me. When you stood in that house and you looked out, because a picture is being painted here, and you pictured your house and you pictured your lats, and you pictured either diamond squares or whatever it was that you pictured, and you looked out and you saw someone that, oh my goodness, they're lacking judgment. And you know they lack judgment. And you know they need help. You know that they're walking away from God as they're walking toward this gal. Who did you picture? You saw someone. You saw your kid. You saw your son. You saw your daughter. Some of you saw yourselves. Whoever it is that you saw in that picture, that person needs to know that when they choose that other gal, because see, wisdom is that gal, and then this adulteress and seductress is that gal as well. So they're choosing wisdom and understanding, or they're choosing whatever it is that is pulling them away from God. And it could be you. It could be me. Who is it that you saw in your picture? Because that is the person right now you most need to reach out to be there for, to talk with, to let them know it's okay, to share with them that there are struggles. If it's your kid, you saw them bouncing on a trampoline. You saw them in the back of a pickup truck. You saw them writing their names in the snow. You saw them sled riding. You saw them being your co-pilot in the car. You saw them the first day that they scored a touchdown. You saw them the first time they got run over on a field. And you were there for all that. And they looked to you and they saw you and they were like, oh, that's my hero. That's my guy. That's my gal. That's my mom. That's my dad. And that's who they turn to. See, we need to do the same to God. Because when we do that, then we can do the same to that person that you just pictured, walking down the road. You're walking away from you. You're walking away from God. Close your eyes again. Close your eyes again, please. Person's walking down the road, you can picture them. They're walking away from you, they're walking away from God. And they come across this seductress. With persuasive words, she led him astray. She seduced him. She seduced him with her smooth talk. All at once, he followed her. So in an instant, he followed her. Like an ox going to the slaughter, like a deer stepping into a noose, till an arrow pierces his liver, like a bird darting into a snare, little knowing it will cost him his life. Little knowing it will cost him his life. Ever look at me? When we are not willing to share our lives with others as believers, we are not willing to love others as Christ loved us, we are not willing to take this wisdom internally and then share it with others, it costs them their life here, and it costs them the opportunity of eternal life. I won't get back tomorrow with all these young people. I may see some of them. I made eye contact with as many people as I could. You can't believe how many dads just looked down because they saw this dad, and how many moms just looked away because they heard this mom. Your kids, my kids, those kids out there, these kids in our churches, they need to know that they are worth it. They need to know that you know that they have a heart. They need to know that when they make bad decisions, not if, when they make bad decisions, that there's going to be someone that they can turn to, because it's going to start with you. But their kids are our kids. And we need to start taking that seriously. And if you saw yourself walking away in this picture, you need to start taking God more seriously. Because I can't reach out here until I'm right here. Jesus showed he was right here, and then he ended up here. And it's the grace behind it and not the guilt that we need to carry. Your mistakes in your lives, your struggles in your lives, they will help someone. You'll know when. You don't have to tell them every detail, but you will know when. Jason, go ahead and put up these final verses, if you would, please. Now then, my sons, listen to me. Pay attention to what I say. Do not let your heart turn to her ways or stray into her paths. Many are the victims she has brought down. Her slain are a mighty throng. Her house is a highway to the grave, leading down to the chambers of death. We don't want to focus on death all the time. But there are times when we have to. Because in those deaths are when we get to share life. 3 different people came up to me yesterday during that funeral. And this is what they said. And I'm glad you're sitting down because I'm still kind of blown away. The first person said to me, we are so happy to be because we don't know any other church that would do that. other church that would do that. We just happened to be the church that they talked and I knew one of the sons. The person that ended up calling was a neighbor of Lisa's who called this lady to call Lisa. That's how this whole thing took place. And we were willing to do it because we knew the hurt that was involved. These people couldn't believe that a church would help people in a time of need. Is that what you heard? Because that's what I heard. Another lady pulled me aside in the back and she said, I'm going to tell you something right now. I go to this church, and I'm telling you, my church would never do this. And I am telling my pastor about your church because I want him to help people to get to be more like this church. I said, what church do you go to? I'm sorry, I didn't say that. She gave me the church name, and I said, is this the pastor? She said, yeah, and I go, friends of him. I'll send him a text this week. Tell him he's going to hell. Hey man, it's funeral wisdom, right? Well, that's not allowed anywhere. I'll point that out. But I am going to reach out to him this week. Hey, just one of your congregants that came up to me. And the third person who drove from I don't know where, but she came all the way up. She stopped to say, this is where we all need to be. And you need to be in a church that is this loving and this caring. And she shared that with people. She was going through it while talking to all of them. You know why? Because God put those words in her heart, and she knew that they needed it. Did she reach everyone? I doubt it. I know she reached the ones that she could reach. But that's just it. She reached the ones that she could reach because she was willing to. Last night, Deanna and I were in the hospital at Akron City, and my son has a friend who's the quarterback for Manchester. And for those of you who don't know, there was an incident that took place, and he got hit on the sidelines. He was trying to get out of bounds, and he blacked out for 2 minutes. So we went in to see him. He's sitting with a neck brace all around him, and he could only look up. So my son went right away up to the hospital. And we were you stay back because of head injuries, you're not sure with the lighting and just all that kind of stuff that's going on. So you never know what you're walking into when you're going to the hospital. And a lot of people won't go to a hospital because they don't know what they're walking into. I've been there where I walked in and said, hey, I just came to see you. And they turned to me and said, we're pulling the plug in an hour. Would you pray with me and my family? And I have. There's other times I walk in and I didn't think I'd see a person, and then they were fine. It's the craziest thing. You don't know. But the fear of it stops us from going. God didn't give us that spirit of fear. He gave us a spirit of power and of love and of a sound mind. And if you're not sure as to whether or not you should go, you should probably go. At least reach out to the family to listen back and forth until they say it's time to. But show that, take that step to do so. This young man, as we sat and prayed, and a lot of the football players there were there, and when we prayed together, I just looked down on him, and we loved this kid. I coached him since he was 6 years old in baseball. He comes to our house, and he laughs at our family because we're the loudest family on the planet, and that's just who we are. And you see this big, strong kid that's playing quarterback for his high school team, and all of a sudden he's laying there. And I went back to when he was first 6 years old, and I see the pictures of him and my other son, Nathan, arms wrapped around each other, and their little glasses that they have when they're about 5 years old because they're growing too much and they don't realize they can't see, but they can't see, and they just love each other. And how even the teacher at kindergarten said, these guys are always going to be lifelong friends. And so as he's laying there, we prayed, and then I grabbed his hand, and he said, hey, we need to go golfing soon. He's in a neck brace. He's in surgery right now. They're fusing his C4, 5, and 6. C4, 5, and 6 in his neck right now. Putting a cadaver thing in a plate and screws to keep it all together. He said, I want to go golfing. Because you're going to need to teach me how to golf, because I'm never going to play football again. One hit changes everything. But loving enough, all these people came. It's strong enough in his heart to say, I'm going to need you. I know you enough to know I can turn to you. Because he asked me to pray. Would you please pray for me? Will you pray with everyone in that room? You can really use it right now. There is someone in your life right now that needs a prayer. There's someone in your life right now that needs an arm around. There's someone in your life right now that just needs to listen to. There's someone that you need to be ready, willing, and able to share God's wisdom. Because they are being pulled away from God. And that's what this world does. These younger kids that are running around, if you say their name wrong 5 or 6 times, you tell them, I'm not good with names, and I'm going to keep finding out about you. You reach out to me, you love them. If you're not where you need to be with God, you dive into His Word to get to that point where you're right with God, so that you can start sharing more of His Word. Just as the writer is saying here, there's so much more, and there's going to come an opportunity. And when an opportunity comes, 1, will you be ready? And 2, what is it that you will share? I don't ever want to do another funeral on a heroin overdose. But 5 years ago, I had never done one. So it's probably coming. But I sure want to do whatever I can during that time to know your kids' names and to find the things out that they're doing and to make fun of their shoes or to name their shoes. And I want them to be comfortable enough to come up and say, hey, John, how's it going? And I want to be able to say hello to them when I see them in the community. Or if I'm going through their school with their superintendent, for them to come up and give me 5 or give me a hug or just say, hey, coach, or hey, whatever, hey, how's it going? Because every moment matters to God, and every moment matters to that child, and every moment that you represent God matters to both. Learn it, live it. It's time to start loving them. Would you all bow your heads, please, so we can say a word of prayer. Lord, I know Robbie's in surgery right now. Just pray that you watch over the surgeons and know that he'll be coming up shortly to hopefully be getting out of there. Lord, there's so many more steps afterward. God, I just pray that, as his dad shared with me yesterday, sports don't matter. What matters are all the people that came in to share their love. Share with me that we just got to trust God right now through this. God, thank you for the people that were there to reach out to that family. And then praying for Robbie. God, thank you for the people that are reaching out to the Knight family after their loss. God, thank you for the example that Dave was in my life and in other people's lives. We're just hoping that people continue to love one another. God, there's so many examples all along the path that you leave us. Help us to see you in those and recognize you in them. God, help us to take your wisdom and to put it in our heart and to share your words with others. Because it means a lot. In fact, it means life. Lord, help us to know that you are the author of salvation. Help us to know that you are the author of our lives when we believe in you. God, whatever it is that's pulling us away, help us to not only put that away, but to share with others, to talk with others, so that we have people that we can turn to and be accountable to. God, we so want to learn your word. We so want to love others, but we stop ourselves because of our past, because of our struggles, because of whatever it is that is pulling us away from you. Lord, no more. No more. God, help us to bind us upon our fingers. Help us to write this on the tablet of our heart, but help us to take that, to not only guard it, but to give it away to others. God, we love you. We thank you for this time. So we pray. I want you to just take the next couple of minutes as the praise team is up here playing. Talk to God about this. Have a conversation. Discuss it with him. See where you are in it and where he is in it, and then just a little bit we'll all get up and we'll sing an invitation song together.